Hi, I'm Nan Simonsen. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. My focus is on aging powerfully. I wrote a book about it, and I am about to do another book. I've decided I'm going to do a book still aging powerfully because I'm about to turn 75, and that was written just before 70. And there are new things that I've learned, and I'll put those in that. Um, I was invited to an event that I wondered about because I thought it just, the title was, the subject was vague in that, how do you sink your teeth into this? And the subject was kindness. And it was a kindness works um, summit at 8 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday. And I was invited just days before and decided that, you know what, there is always something to learn from experienced and well-versed people. And there were well-versed people speaking, names that I recognized. And I thought, okay, I really want to do this. And this was our little flyer, the Kindness Summit, and it was being offered, sponsored by our Riverside Medical Clinic, their charitable foundation. And apparently, a number of doctors got together, was it 50 years ago, and decided that they wanted to give back to the community, and they created this foundation. And they give scholarships and they do a number of things. And they decided this year that they were going to offer this summit, leading with kindness, fostering respect, resilience, and belonging. They also highlighted the fact that nationally October is the bullying prevention month. And so they're doing events even in schools that relate to, and workshops relating to bullying. And I'm going to read you a little bit of my notes that kind of set this up for how did they do that? What would they do to make this something that people from the medical field, from business, relations, HR people, therapists, lay people, there's quite a group. There was almost 200 people there, and from a number of different affiliations. And the, let me see. Okay, we had a keynote speaker. Well, first of all, the first thing that was done is that one of the members who runs a business helping people um, find their way in the workplace, uh, to find more reward from whatever it is they're doing. And she passed out this card. Uh, I guess her company is Work Well, Elevating Workplace Well-Being. And the card is data-driven, a list of data-driven tips to boost mood and reduce stress. One is square breathing. Square breathing is, some people call it box breathing. It's sort of even a military thing that's done. Naval SEALs, I hear, do this. For in, for held, for out, or held, and then repeat for a minute. And it calms the nervous system. Another is mindfulness. And I loved this: 5 things seen, 4 things touched, 3 things heard, 2 things smelled, and 1 thing tasted. Isn't that cool? 5 see, 4 touch, 3 hear, 2 smell, 1 taste. That's a new take on mindfulness. Take a walk. Uh, which increases our endorphin, serotonin, improves our mood, especially if we do it in nature. Having green tea helps to increase calm and clarity. Well, there's antioxidants in green tea that are good for our body. If there's caffeine, I don't know how calming that is. Unplug, putting our devices down, allows us face-to-face connection and reduces anxiety. We see this more and more, and it's really easy to get caught into it or caught up with it at at a meal. 4 people sitting at a table, the kids, the parents, every one of them. Oh, that's where this really hit home. It was in a restaurant, and the kids couldn't have been any older than 11 or 12 or something. Every one of them had their face in their phone instead of having a conversation. And they may have all had a reason. They were, who knows, doing homework or something, but it was clearly not a conversational opportunity for that family. And then gratitude, a quick note of thanks, releases dopamine, oxytocin, and promotes happiness. So that was how we started. And then our keynote speaker, Dr. Jones, um, eh, promoted the idea that we are stronger together, that kindness does work, but it has, and I never thought of it this way, negative connotations. Some people would say, well, kindness, maybe, especially in the workplace, is soft. Maybe it's weak, it's naive, unrealistic. It's passive, avoids conflict. It's submissive, always yielding. It's unprofessional, too personal or irrelevant, time consuming, slows things down, fake performance, inauthentic, superficial, manipulative, stalling, or coercing. However, he summed up the reality that kindness takes courage, clarity, and discipline. And that was the message of the conference, and backing those strengths up, courage, clarity, and discipline, with how kindness can shape our world. At the end of his talk, his main point, because he talked about this book, The Body Keeps Score, after he told a story about how at 28, his mother, who was a nurse, when he called her and said, I'm not going to try to emulate the way he spoke, but he told her, Mom, I'm not doing well. And the mother said, You're having a stroke. Get to the hospital. And that's what they thought had happened. However, they did many, many tests. He wasn't, but there's a thing that he had called a hemofacial spasm, or hemobody involuntary movements, that made it look like he was stroking, and yet it was his body's response to what it wasn't called out until he saw a particular therapist said is stress, and his body's response to stress. Another reason why kindness matters. And so, after all of that, talking about this book, The Body Keeps Score, and several people referred to that, with the conclusion, first, take care of yourself. The things you do that are good for you are going to be good for people around you. And what's really interesting is that as we went on, I took 8 pages. Instead of bringing a computer with me, I bring my handy notebook. And this is actually a little oil painting. This is a Renoir. And I really like this old-fashioned thing. But I took 8 pages of notes through what, 4, 5, 6 talks. And I thought that I would share with you, rather than going on, some of my takeaways. And the first takeaway is, what are some of the positive effects of kindness? It increases happiness. Both the giver and the receiver of kindness experience a boost in mood, in life satisfaction, that you could call the helper's high, the receiver's high. In other words, there are, and I'll talk in just a minute about how certain acts of kindness actually feel to the receiver. It strengthens social bonds. Kindness builds trust, connection, and belonging. Even small acts can make people feel seen and valued. It reduces stress. Acts of kindness lower cortisol, the stress hormones, and creates a sense of calm for both parties. It inspires others. Kindness is contagious. Think about that. Witnesses and witnessing an act of kindness or experiencing it makes people more likely to pass it on. It improves physical health. Studies show that regular kindness lowers blood pressure, reduces inflammation, and can even strengthen the immune system. It creates meaning and purpose, helping others give life direction, and fosters a sense of significance, especially in hard times. It enhances workplace and community culture. Kindness changes the tone of groups, encouraging collaboration, generosity, and resilience, and supports mental health. It reduces anxiety and depression by shifting focus outward and increasing positivity. 9 of the 10 breaks down barriers. Kindness bridges differences across generations and cultures or beliefs by emphasizing shared humanity. This is a really important time for this kind of a focus. And number 10 builds momentum for positive change. One act can trigger a chain reaction of goodness that extends far beyond the original moment. And looking at what some of those acts actually look like, I thought would be fun if we also looked at the possible effects of that kindness, the feelings that one gets, no, the actual act, and then the feeling one gets from having that act directed toward them. So, for example, and I'm going to ask you, and you can share this in the comments. I'm going to ask you to think of, call yourself out, in other words, in a good way, to think of things that you have done, things you do on a regular basis that you barely even recognize as being relevant or pertinent to this subject, but that you do that could elevate other people, that could make them seen and recognized and heard. So, for example, holding the door open for someone who has something heavy in their arms, or just waiting for them to walk through, even though they're a couple of paces behind, as opposed to letting it flip closed. The effect could be that the person feels supported. It relieves stress. It creates a quick sense of connection. How about letting a driver merge in front of you with a friendly wave? I do that all the time. As a matter of fact, I was driving this Sunday and my husband said, "You had the right of way." And I said, "It didn't matter." It felt good to catch the eye of the guy and say this, and he waved and went through. And I wasn't in a hurry. Who cares? It was a minute. But it felt good for me. And my guess is, instead of my aggressively taking turn because it was my turn, I was the person on the right, after all. That's California. I don't know where you are or what your rules are. Um, but that moment that was created by that act benefited both of us. Um, Complimenting a stranger on anything, their smile, their outfit, their patience, the effect could be to boost their confidence, brighten their day, and it often inspires them to pass it on. Writing a thank you note to anyone, a friend, a teacher, a neighbor, a nurse, increases the recipient's sense of appreciation and value while deepening your relationship. Um, paying for paying for someone's coffee or a meal anonymously. The effect sparks surprise and delight, often inspires a receiver to pay it forward. In other words, these things all have a ripple effect, we hope. uh, Carrying groceries for a elderly neighbor or someone who's struggling, or helping someone get a bag up on an airplane, or anything that we can intercede to offer support. The effect lightens physical burden while strengthening neighborhood trust and connection. And offering your seat on a bus or in a waiting room provides immediate relief and dignity, especially for those who need it the most. And then, how about some emotional support, like checking in on a friend who's going through a hard time? Reduces feelings of isolation, increases emotional resilience, and shows genuine care. Offering encouraging words to someone nervous before a test or a presentation or a performance calms anxiety, builds confidence, and can directly improve their performance. And then sharing skills, fixing something, tutoring, helping with technology, asking if there's something you can do, and really meaning that you would, solves a problem, saves time or money, and deepens a sense of community. So, with this kind of takeaway from this event, we had a number of speakers offering permutations of all of this. And one of them is going to be speaking with us, if not this next Tuesday, the following. As a matter of fact, she was coming on today. But she has a 97-year-old mother who's doing well, but suddenly began having uh, palpitations in the heart, took her to emergency, and it's AFib. And so she, of course, needed to take care of business with her siblings. And her mother, I believe, is still just fine. But her name is Diane Callahan. She's written 3 books, and she did the best talk on what was the title? I want to give you the title of her talk on how to go from inner critic to inner champion. And she told quite a story about her own evolution, personal evolution, and I won't tell that because she'll be here to tell it. Quite a life story. And she left us with something, and this is what I'm going to leave with now. Her most important takeaway is you've got to love yourself in many cases before you can love anyone else. And she was in a number of abusive situations during which she lost the vision of her own self-worth completely, and she had to build it back. And she reminded us, and this was quite a long talk. Well, it was almost an hour, and she'll be with us, and she's going to show us that same PowerPoint for about 45 minutes when she comes on. And but she left us with a diagram, and she said, "This is one of my favorite, easiest ways to understand the power of our mind as it relates to our life." And it's called the confidence loop. The confidence loop is a reinforcing cycle between thoughts, emotions, and actions, all fueled by self-talk. Okay, so this is the loop. And the point of it is that it starts with, where are we? Oh, here. It starts with number 1, self-talk. Whatever I tell myself is going to travel down this loop to number 2 and elicit an emotion. I'm going to tell myself something, it'll bring up an emotion. I've been transparent about this. I've been on a journey. Dr. Brooke Goldner helped me with this when I took her rapid recovery group because she's a psychiatrist and she is an optimist. And I healed better working her protocol under her tutelage during the rapid recovery group because she did a lot of mind directing training. And one of the things that I got out of it was to look very differently at myself and my own self-talk because I have challenges. I'm dyslexic, I have ADHD, I'm left-handed, which makes me also different. I didn't grow up like a lot of people with a close family, so there's a lot of kind of dark gaps in there and dark holes of emotion. And so it was really easy. Grew up with this almost as a second nature, even though I became rather successful in a number of businesses. Um, it became very easy, and even within the last, the beginning of this year or the end of last year, for me to catch myself doing something wrong. Now, I built a sales company to millions of dollars a year of sales, teaching people to catch themselves doing something right. You catch yourself doing something right, you admire in your mind what that was and who you are to have been able to do it, and it will make you want to do that again and again. I didn't live that. And she taught me to catch myself differently. So this was so poignant in that it's so simple. So what I would do is I'd catch myself doing something very either dyslexic, I couldn't add anything, or I added it so badly that it messed up a recipe. That's where I really get myself in trouble. And then the emotion, gosh darn it, I'm doing it again. Or fear, uh-oh, if it's this bad now at almost 75, what's it going to be like at 80? And then 85 if I still have brain cells working at all. And then the emotion keeps going. Then it turns into action, and that action could be anger. That's an emotion, but that action could be um, flailing out at others. It could be, well, that would be angry. It could be giving up as opposed to working harder because I'm never going to get there because that's who I am. And then it results in belief reinforcement because, as she said, and she does this so much better when you see her talking, because as she said, your brain will work to make you right. If you believe that you are fill in the blanks, too lazy, too unattractive, too stupid, your brain will continue to catch those things and make you right, and you'll come to believe you are. On the other hand, if, and this is where I turn the corner with Dr. Goldner, where I began to see my challenges as my superpowers. Because one thing that somebody with ADHD does is hyper focus beautifully. Another thing is they can turn around on a dime. I'm really good in an emergency because while others have patterns, I see it with my husband. He's a CPA tax attorney. If this was a grid, his thoughts would be very cubbyholed in that grid so that he can think as clearly as he does with so many things to have to think about as opposed to mine, where my brain wouldn't fit in that grid. I need space for it to kind of swirl around. But that means it can jet off in any direction really fast and comfortably. And I can come up with thoughts that others wouldn't because I'm not constrained. And the dyslexia, actually, the one thing that somebody does well with ADHD is, again, hyperfocus, but the dyslexia has just taught me to be stronger in other things. I'm really good at speaking, and I was terrified of speaking, but I speak far better than I write, than I draw. And so I've learned to speak because that's how I built my sales company. So let's say, and I'm talking to you now, let's say that your thought, your self-talk is, man, I'm really getting good at this. Wow, I'm having a great day. Gosh, look at what I came up with. The emotion. I'm so proud of myself. I'm so pleased with myself. I am, I'm good. I like myself. Going over to the action, I'm going to try harder. I'm going to do more of this. I'm going to succeed. And then to the result, look what I've, or it's no more, no longer words, but it's a reality. I have built this because I started here with the positive, and the loop has led me to a result that my brain was aiming for because I started it out looking for that reality. Isn't that the neatest thing? So, as they said at the meeting, is it GIGO, garbage in, garbage out? We could have simplified garbage in, garbage out, or beliefs in and strength out. I think that's all I have to say. I hope this was helpful. I hope I've caught you at a vulnerable place where you look at this, look at yourself and say, gosh darn it, I can do this differently. And not in mm, a way of degrading yourself, but in a way of patting yourself on the back and saying, look where I am now, and oh my gosh, look where I'm going. And then finding proof for that all the way along the way. Anyway, that's it. I hope you're having a great day. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and I hope I see you again soon and have a great day because I know I'm going to. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.